Hi, I'm Kevin, and in this video we're learning how to use the asset Prefab World Builder. I got it off a Humble Bundle a few months back, but it's actually back on sale right now in the Unity Asset Store if you haven't got it already. So let's jump over into Unity to get started. So if you have bought the asset on the Asset Store, it should already be in your package manager. So if you go to the package manager and select My Assets, it should be right in here with all the other assets. Let's search for Prefab and Prefab World Builder. There it is. I've already downloaded it, so I don't need to do that, but I will just click import and choose to import it all, and we can close this out of the way again. To get started using this asset, there is a bit of setup that we need to do. So go to Tools, Plugin Master Prefab World Builder, and choose the toolbar. Now this will prompt you that a new toolbar is available for Unity 2021. So in this case you can just click cancel. If however you are still on Unity 2020 or 2019, you can your toolbar will open up in a separate window, and you can just dock that window right above the scene view. These will then be your tools that you will be using in the scene view. But for us in 2021, we will just not use that, and we will instead use the overlay. And these three are the new tools that we will be using. Now it's getting a little bit crowded up here, so we can just remove some of the other tools so that we can focus on these ones. Now this toolbar is just part of the new UI, so we will of course still need to arrange our UI so that we can work with this new tool. To do that, I like to move the hierarchy to this side, move the projects panel under the hierarchy, close out the console entirely, and I also like to change the project panel to just a one column layout. Then we go to Tools and we open the palette. I will just dock that one to the side. And we will open up the brush properties. I will place them underneath the palette. And then lastly we will open the tool properties, and I place that under the inspector. You can of course place your windows just the way you like. This is just the way I prefer to do it when working with this tool. There's also a few settings windows in here. I will not be covering those today, but you can dock them here for future reference. Now, of course, we don't want to do all this setup every time that we will be using this tool, so I suggest that you save this layout and call it something like Prefab World Builder. Now this is a prefab placement tool, so of course we're going to need some prefabs. You should go ahead and open the Unity Asset Store and find an assets package with some prefabs that you like. I'm going to be using the free starter pack from Polygon in this tutorial. So once you have gotten that from the Asset Store, it will also be in the package manager under My Packages. And I will just type in simple. And the starter pack here is from Polygon. It's of course already downloaded, so I will just hit import. And import all the assets. Once that's downloaded, just close down the package manager again. And you can see here in the Polygon starter pack, we have a folder called Prefabs, and in this folder there is a bunch of prefabs that we can use for this tool. Now let's just start out by creating a ground plane for our prefabs to have something to stand on. So a plane, let's make it a little bigger. To use this tool, simply drag a prefab into the palette, and that will automatically create a brush for you. Now if you select the brush and you use the first tool here, it's called pin, you can pin place these on the ground. Now, they are of course all facing in the same direction, so we would maybe like to create a little bit random rotation in them. So hit escape to stop using the pen tool, go to the brush properties and open up the rotation tab. Now, if you add a random rotation and set the Y value to 360, pick the pen tool again, you will see that it rotates randomly every time that you place another prefab. Now let's say that these trees were once in a very, very windy area. You'll see that we are getting a problem here with the prefabs sticking out of the ground and there being a large gap beneath them. To fix that, we can go to the position, embed on surface, and we can choose to lower the embedding a bit. And as you can see, the objects are now pushed down into the surface and we don't have that large gap underneath anymore. Now let's just reset these values and open up the prefab world builder, and you can just delete the palette and it will delete anything that you have created. In the brush properties there's also a scale. You can of course just pick another multiplier here, but you can also randomly assign a value between, let's say, 0.7 and 1.5, and each new model will be placed at a random scale. Now, of course, this is an extremely boring forest if it is only filled with trees that have been cut down. So you can open up the multibrush settings, and in here you can add additional trees or additional prefabs of any type. And now, when placing, a random prefab will be selected from the multibrush. Now let's say that this forest is actually has a lot of fir trees. So we can open up the frequency here and we can say that fir trees are, say, 4 out of 8. So every other tree will be fir tree. Now this is of course a little bit tedious with all these clicks. So let's clear out the palette again. By the way, I don't know if that's the right way to clear that out, but that's the way I've been doing it. So, and let's try out the second tool called the brush tool. Now with the brush tool you can hold down Control and you can scale the tool with your mouse wheel. You can now start painting and the trees will occur within the brush area. Of course, the larger the brush, the more trees will occur. The minimum spacing is set to auto, but you can choose a custom value and reduce the spacing, and of course the coverage will be much denser. The third tool in the toolbar is physics based. It's called Gravity Brush, and it will drop down your prefabs. Of course, this will not work extremely well for trees, but if you have another prefab, say this car, and you're trying to create a messy children's room with a bunch of cars thrown around, well, that's a pretty easy way to do that. To change between the brushes in the palette, you can hold down Control Shift and use the mouse wheel, which will toggle between your brushes. That is the basics of it for you to get started. I will make another video containing information about the other 8 tools in this package. If you want to see more content like this, please leave a comment. And also I think there will be relevant links in the doobly-doo down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, tweet, whatever floats your boat, and cut. And find some free Unity Asset Store and find some free presets. And in this video, we're learning how to use the we are not learning set. That is the basics.